Have you got a story to share? The experiences that you went through those dark times need to be told, need to be heard. The teachings, the lessons. I know when I had a stroke scare that it changed my life. My name's Jay from Journey of a Whitefeather, and I run a show on Spotify and all good platforms called A Chat with Jay. I talk to normal everyday people who have had experiences that need to share their teachings with the world. I speak to celebrities who are there, who can give you advice how to become a better person. Bruce Buffer, the Kings of Disco, Blackie Lawless from Wasp. So many people, but I love talking to the normal everyday person that gets up every morning to be their best self. If you want to be a guest, whitewarriorhealth@gmail.com. Check out our socials, hashtag Jay Stephenson, hashtag Journey of a Whitefeather. Take care and always be the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Shouldn't we be? If I had an extra X amount of dollars, I'd be buying some, whatever I need to buy. But I'll be supporting small business. It's quite simple. But we're giving them money. And they can tell them what, they're giving the money to the government.
They're too lazy. People are too lazy. Like they'd rather get on their phone because they're just not pushed enough at the moment. And yeah, like there's lots of things that we could tick along on it. And I'd like to talk about some detail. The problem is you get into these rabbit holes because what I found, and this is like this come to me like, you know, through my journey. Last September, I'm watching Ask Guys, right? And I've had a podcast with a heap. Then I'm thinking, no one's getting together. Everyone just keeps doing their own thing. And so I went away. And then I thought about it, and I was looking at what I was doing. And I went away and camped on the river for 3 days. I built a little hut, got a swag, camped on the river, way up in the mountains, no one around. And I just sat there and I just thought about it and lots of things. And it dawned on me. I thought, you're doing the same thing, you egotistic idiot. You know, you're online, you got heaps of followers, you like talking to all these people, you know, get a bit of attention from the women, all that sort of stuff. So it all feels pretty good, you know what I mean? And then I sort of thought to myself, I thought my ego was dead. I thought, hang on a minute. I'm doing the same thing as everyone else. Like we're all doing our own little bit in our own environment, but we're actually not realizing that we need to join. So that's when I made We Are One Community. And that's when I come out with all I do now is like, because really I could flip this interview because I'm trying to advertise people like you. You know what I mean? Exactly what you're saying. And one of the things people miss in life, if you look at life, we talk about life. If you look at life is full of indifference. Everything around you, outside, inside, is completely different, but we need all of it to be able to survive. Right? So difference is an absolute key to the survival of a healthy life. Right now, so what we need to do, and this is what the influencers, and this is what came to me last September. What we're doing is we're looking at the detail. And hence, we might not like what each other think, but tolerance is key here because we've got a higher strategic problem, right? So we need tolerance to understand that difference is good. Difference is actually required. We don't have to agree, but what we have to do is we just have to have a little bit of a tolerance for a little while, put the difference here and have a look at this one major problem we've got, which is the cultural decision-making of our major organisations and politicians. Now, we can show that their decision-making is culturally poor and negligent through their spending in their last 30 years. The data's all there. And that's on this panel I put together. Annie's on the panel because she pulls all the data from the census. So if you pull the data out, for example, on taxes on one thing or compliances on one thing, you'll get angry. You'll get angry if you see it. And just like the superannuation figures, you'll get angry.
Yep.
And so what we've said is the next step for us, like as a collective, is we need to start joining. So I need your 20,000 followers. You need my 20,000 followers. We need average man.
Makes sense, mate.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
One shot stop, mate.
Yeah, and then what you need to do is you need to get them aligned to the higher strategic because we're all at the bottom things, and this is where we can't join. And so we need to understand that we have a cultural problem here with our leaders, and we need to call them for account. And even those people are saying that through detail, we need to call them to ultimate account, because we have a system that's getting sicker and people getting sicker, suicides going up. All the figures need to be called to account. And so once again, let's not get into the detail of the suicides. No. Let's not get into the detail of that. What we need to say is everything we look at is getting worse other than profits for major organisations. And that can be clearly shown through data. And if we, as people doing what we're doing, can communicate that actively, I think we'll stop arguing on detail and we'll join a ride on the biggest problem we have, I believe, which is the cultural decision making about politicians and large big business owners.
Mate, it's an absolute 100% thought that a lot of people are thinking like that. And as I said, I think we've got to a point where, you know, people are waking up and understanding. But I think it is, I think my belief is there's people like you and me who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of drive, and we understand where we are as people. There's got to be, and as you said, there's got to be people who have connection to different people and different cultures within the world to bring everyone under the same hall of justice, as I call it. And then we can understand and go, okay, look, you might be this way, but there's a greater problem here that we've got to get together. And look, it's not a case of putting your differences aside, it's just being aware of the one problem and saying, okay, that's exactly how I look at it.
One of the things that's happened in the box over here in the system is that we're now under this belief that if we don't agree, you're no good. Right?
Yes.
Now, if you rewind 20 years, Jay, and I was sitting at home watching TV when I was 8, listening to Dad and his mates have a barbie, they'd be yelling and screaming at each other about the different political parties. Then you'd hear them go, "You want a beer?" They crack a beer. "Yeah, catch you next week, mate." Right? Now, they all had differences and they'd argue, but they could tolerate each other's differences because we're all different. So what's happened in this system at the moment, and this is where I believe at the moment. So I've got a few little sayings that I say, like, you know, corporate profit at all costs, you know, stop and reverse the wealth divide. You know, I've got quite a few little things that I say. So at the moment, we've got this system that is fundamentally just breaking everyone down, and there's so much sickness and everyone's cracking. So many people are shutting down businesses.
100%.
And this is exactly what they want. So what they want, yeah, and this is the nefarious part of it, but I've seen it through business, right? And the compliance laws. Look, I don't know whether it's nefarious or not, but I know that the data is demonstrating exactly what they want to do. So basically, they're squeezing all the small businesses out. And I get people speak to me. So I had a business owner that imported for a number of international companies in Australia, like one of them being McDonald's. And anyway, last year they turned around to him as an Australian business. They said, "We can't use you anymore. You have to be a multinational business." All right, so they won't use anything but a multinational business. These large business organisations are squeezing all the small players out because that's how they get their market share. All right, that's how they get their market share, and then they can manipulate the markets, and then they can fuck around with the inflation through supply and demand. Because yes, inflation is lack of supply, but you can also change inflation, right? You know, people are spending money. Things have gone up. People are spending money to buy because there's not much supply. The other way that you can actually fix inflation is up your supply. Because if you build factories and up your supply, then there's more supply. Which
it's like manufacturing and all that, my friend.
That's right. So they've created these problems, and this is what I mean by looking at data. If you go back and look at the data, shutting all the steel wire mills down, all the steel factories, and all our production, and you look at all the money that's lost, the privatization of Powercore and all this sort of stuff, right? If you go and look at it, there's a direct correlation between, you know, basically the wealth divide, all the wealth going up to these, like a minority of people, which has been sucked out of the system, right? And so when you lose a small business, they put their money in locally, right? The big businesses don't. They'll sponsor a local sports club, but they won't spend their money locally, right? They'll buy all their cars from over there, or they'll buy all their computers, straight from China.
Well, can I jump in on that one, my friend? You're exactly right. And we look at the natural resources since the 90s. I mean, that's the biggest rort of all time. And the gas. I mean, everyone knows about we're giving the gas away and then buying it back. I mean, business-wise, it's absolutely ridiculous. And they always make a joke about politicians aren't businessmen. They always make a joke about it. But isn't it quite simple price? Okay, you've got something. Yep, no worries. We'll make a little bit of profit out of it, or whatever it may be, barter, whatever it may be. But we're not getting anything out of it. We're giving it away for nothing. We should be self-sufficient. The best one I get is the solar thing. I still don't understand the solar thing, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think, right, son, give it to the generator, put the heat in the generator. That's it, done. Like, that's how I think. As I said, I haven't done any research on it, but we're the hottest country in the world. Why aren't we utilizing solar more often? Oh, because it costs too much. Key word, my friend.
Cost. But look, but it's also like, I remember it would have been 2 years ago when Albo got on the news and said, it's as simple as this. I use a peanut. It's as simple as this. If you have solar, you charge your car for free overnight. And I got on and said, no, Albo, sorry. You can't, because I've got an electrical company, right, and engineering as well. And I said, no, Anthony, you can't. I said, your $6,000 to $10,000, 6 to 10 kilowatt solar system is only a solar system. It only feeds back into the grid. I said, what you'll need another couple of batteries. So there's another $5,000 or $10,000, and then you may have to look at your insurance, because most insurance companies aren't insuring the batteries beside a house. Now you have to build a little outhouse. Then you got to get a planning permit. I said, so no, Anthony, it does not. And then by the time you've paid $30,000 for all your systems to be self-sustainable, right? Then what happens? Or $20,000 for your battery in your solar system. Then what happens? You're 10 years in and your batteries are failed. You $10,000 worth of batteries. What average person has an extra $10,000 sitting in their bank?
Oh no, of course we don't.
It's no different to the electric cars. Like, when you have to change the motors in the cars, like, it's a $20,000 or $30,000 thing. So what happens when your electric car fails? What happens to a normal person that's bought a $50,000 electric car, and next minute they've got to spend another $30,000 on a motor?
Do you mind if I jump in on that one, my friend?
No, go, mate,
go. Yeah. Well, I just basically say this is a reality check, right? So I was in Houston last year during Hurricane Beryl, right?
Yep.
So I saw the impact of a natural disaster. No electricity. Now I go and look at these people. Two things I think about electric cars. Number one, I don't want to be sitting on a battery, right? Radiation, think about it. Number two, what happens when the electricity goes out? You can't bloody charge them. So I mean, this is the Captain Obvious stuff. And I mean, yeah, as you said, and you got to come under. You got to have people in the community, as you are. We are one community. As this will go up on as the chat goes on, and educating. I think it's educating, as you said. 100%. It's not about saying, the banks are doing this. What we're doing is having a mindset of education and connecting to yourself and understanding what's going on for your own betterment and your own good, so you can have a voice.
When you connect to yourself, you start to realize that you're not looking outwards. And I call it inwards and outwards thinking. Yep. No, inwards and outwards thinking.
Yep.
Everyone's thinking inwards. No one's and you can see it when you talk to people. Most people are already looking to reply before they've even heard what you've said. And we've just got so many bad traits in our society, and it's so fake. There's so much fakeness as well. Like, I call it glossy documents, and it starts with big corporations and that. They've got all these glossy documents, and they say we do this and we do that, and they do none of it. Or they do 5% of it. Right, but it's there and it ticks a box in compliance. So when the auditor comes through the door, they can read the document and go, "Oh yeah, you do it, great work," And there's so much of that, and we've seen all the competencies. Just we are getting less competent, and we don't have the same intellect anymore. I'm sorry, but we just don't. There's no critical thinking.
I'd like to take this time to shout out our supporters at Liberty Bullion, the best gold, silver, and platinum traders in Melbourne, even Australia. You want to give them a call. Their knowledge, their customer service is second to none. Back to the show.
I watch the young kids of these days trying to count change back out of tills and all sorts of things, and they just cannot critically think. And it's not everyone.
Oh my God!
As a collective, there's no real critical thinking skills.
No.
And that comes from hands-on learning as well, especially when you're a boy. But yeah, the education's all tick and flick now. I did an instrumentation ticket. It took me 2 years, 2 days a week. Now you do it at home by yourself, and then you go to a class for 6 days and they give you an instrumentation ticket. But they just tick the boxes. you know, and we're seeing engineers come out of university not competent. We're seeing sparkies coming out of their trade not competent. We're seeing it's all over the place, mate. You know, I once had I once had a big job, and there was a big excavator up on a big pole, and he reached out and nearly tipped the excavator, 50-ton excavator, and I said to him, I got him down. I said, mate, what? Come into the office, show us your tickets and all that. And he'd had his license for about a week. And I rang his boss up and said, mate, have you verified this guy can drive a 50-ton excavator? Oh, he's got his license. And, back in our day, mate, you'd have to sit with someone for a couple of weeks to get your license to do an excavator ticket. I think it was about 4 days. So you'd have to do your theory, and then you'd have to sit with an operator for 4 days, and you'd have to demonstrate to that operator that you knew what you're doing. You don't do that anymore because that's too costly. You can't sit someone beside someone, so it's just a day in the classroom, and you run through it, and you got your excavator ticket. You get in the excavator in the class, and you go around 3 times. You put the bucket in and out, and then you get your ticket. Right? And then they wonder why people are dying on work sites.
Can I ask you with that one, okay? I wanted to go on about waking people up with the info that we got. What do you think the process would be, knowing you don't want to go into detail, and I get that. Because we can go for days upon detail with you, me, and Chief Disruptor and Justice Matters and all the other super friends that I know. Great. Oh, you guys are fantastic. What do you think we have to do other than join your We Are One together, which is, wait, I tell you, and I say that with the most utmost respect because, mate, it's a bloody good idea, mate.
Yeah, well, look, I had it. Look, you can't just, before I say what I think it is, but you can't beat these guys on the political system. It's constrained. I'm not going to say corrupt. I'm going to say it's constrained, right? The only way you can beat this is corporately, as a business, legally. Yep. Right, and so this We Are One, the idea of it was just to have was to advertise people like yourself, and then have a register and just have those register numbers growing. Right now, if we had 2 million people on that register, we could run a mock referendum. For example, do we want the digital ID or not? Yes or no. Right, and just say you get 1.8 people saying no on your register. Well, you ever seen a petition with 1.8 million signatures? No.
Nope.
Right, and that's real power. And so we don't even have to protest, right? It's very simple. And so, like being in business and being around the traps like I have, we can actually use their laws to beat them. And so we actually only need the numbers on one register, but we need it managed. And so, you know, the one thing we need to do is communicate to people is that we have the same problem here. We have to put our differences down, and we have to we have to step back and pan out and have a look at what's actually happening here, because it's not hard to see when you step back and pan out how much trend data there is on the cultural decision making and exactly where they're heading. You can see exactly where they're heading.
You can see clearly what's happening.
And so why would we worry about, so if we put it in an analogy like this, we've got someone coming at us with a big axe and they're going to cut our head off, but he's wearing sandals and you've got thongs on and you're worried about your thongs in the mud, but this guy's running at you with the axe to cut your head off. I'm not worried about my thongs in the mud. I'm worried about the axe, all right, and the guy coming to cut my head off. Here we are worrying about the thongs and everything in the mud, or put it in a footy analogy, right? We're going into the game. We're worried about who got the ball in that contest and which person he gave it to, but we don't even know if we want to win the game.
Yep.
We need to decide to win the game and put the detail down. That's
the brass knuckles of it all, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the next step. And once people like you and I go, look, it doesn't matter what you're doing, Joe, it doesn't matter. Because I've always said, it doesn't have to be my webpage. It doesn't have to be I don't care. I'm after one person in this country to stand there and bring these people together. And if we see that one person, I'll follow him. I'll follow him every day of the week. Right? It's not about me. And that's what I said at the start. It's not about me. What people have got to understand is that these people are smart and they've used their laws and compliance to get to where they are. We can use the same laws and we can use the same business laws to reclaim it. Right. So one of the other things that my register was about, I thought if we hit 1 million people, for example, right? If we got one of the reasons why we can't fight the government or can't get the correct data out, because they just don't get the data out, mate. All the data's there, but they don't advertise it like it. Well, they don't inform people on the correct data. They propaganda it, and they bend the data to tell the story that they want. All right, so when we can get that data out in its raw form and tell the real story, that's when the people are going to rise. Now, the reason why we can't do that is because you and I are trying to pay for our livelihood, right? Because if we're doing this, it's on our outside time, right? So we can do an okay job, but we can't kill it. So I thought if we got to 1 million people on our register, what I'd say to everyone on the register is once we get to 1 million, everyone puts in $100. $100. You save your coffees for 10 weeks, $100 or whatever it is, 20 weeks, right? If we had $100 from 1 million people, we'd have $100 million. And the first thing we do is we hire a business lawyer, a common law lawyer, a business analyst, a data specialist, a political specialist, a project manager, a construction manager, a business contract writer, right? And what you do is you get the best in the country, because I know that the people that don't like what they're seeing, there's more capable people on my panel than in a political party, I believe, right? Because we build and produce, right? They don't. All right. Now, I know that there's even smarter and better people out in the community that are smarter and better than me, right? And so if we advertise for those roles and then said to those people, we'll look after you for 10 years, you're going to be a government watchdog. Every time they print data out on a windmill, like on a wind farm, and they say that it's zero or whatever, we're going to go and do all the concrete calculations, all the data calculations, all the energy calculations, and we're going to advertise the real data. Right, the real data. Right, so be like government watchdog. So you pay them to be like a people's watchdog. The other $70 million, and you keep investing. What you do is you go and speak to farmers, and you get their contracts. You go and build a supermarket, say it's just outside of Melbourne, just a shed, a supermarket. You pay the workers higher wages. You pay the farmers higher prices. The supermarket makes zero. It's an Australian-owned
non-for-profit type thing, yeah.
It's a non-for, yeah, but you don't do it as that because we're going to.
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's an Australian-owned business, and here's the kicker: doesn't matter who puts their money in or how many people put their money in. They only ever own one share, because you can do this technically. You only ever own one share, which means no one owns it. No one ever owns it. You put your $100 in and that's done. It's a sacrifice to buy your country back. Now, mate, if you had 10 million people do that tomorrow, mate, we'd be building businesses everywhere. And our government would be shitting themselves. We would collapse their economic system, right? It can actually be done, right?
Okay, I'll go devil's advocate, and it will work.
Yeah.
The main thing I find, and look, I think it's brilliant. It's the one thing you say is bring everyone together, and that's the most important thing. The problem we have in this country, and my coach JT Fox says this, it's the tall poppy syndrome, which has been embedded in our culture for the last 15, 20 years. I'll tell you, I'm going to do, why are you doing that? Yeah, whatever. Put you down, or go, I could do better, or that's no good, or that's not about me. Because of the fact we're in an egotistical, one-sided society in some ways, where we're actually tunnel visioned and understand that selfishness is basically a negative word.
So I'll explain technically what you just said. So in this system, what's actually happened is, if you look now, if you want to get on a board or a government thing, you've got to have a degree, right?
Yes.
So what's happened here, because like I've run a business in an engineering world, right? I don't have a degree, but I've run a very big business in engineering world. I do a lot of engineering design, and I'm very good at it, mind you. And I've had big companies sign me off as competent as well. Companies like Worley Parsons and that sort of stuff, right? Yep. And so what I've seen, because it doesn't matter, you can either do it or you can't. Right? It's pretty simple. Like it's real or not. This is life. You either can do it or you can't. Over here, you've got the ticket, but you still say a lot of people still can't do it. So what we've done in our academics is we've classified and we've made it hierarchical. So you can't have certain positions if you don't have this piece of paper.
So everyone knows I love YMCA, the Village People. I got the honour of interviewing 4 members of the current Kings of Disco. My name's Jay, and I have a chat show on Spotify and YouTube called A Chat with Jay. And today, the biggest interview of my life, former members of Village People, the Kings of Disco. Bill Whitefeather, the construction worker. Eric Elizondo, the leather man. Alex Briley, G.I. Joe, Army man. and Ray Simpson, one of the best frontmen I've seen. He's the copper. We reminisced about the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but we know they're called the Kings of Disco. But what happened? Let's see when we talk to them on our show. But also, we're going to find out how to get them down here, because when they were here in 2017, they rocked the house, and they can do it again. Spread this video around. Looking forward to releasing it. And thank you so much, the Kings of Disco. We want you down under again, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much, and always do the YMCA.
And all the time. And so what we've done, yeah, so that's not fundamentally the problem. It's a big part of the problem. But the fundamental problem of this, for example, you can sign a stat dec if you're a doctor, a lawyer, but you can't sign a stat dec if you're an electrician, right? Now let's just look at that. Let's have a look at what that means. Like in human sense, right? As two humans, let's just say I'm in life and you're the lawyer, right? And I'm the Sparky. And why are you any more just and have any more integrity than me? Hang on a minute. Let's just ask a question. All you did was go to a different school, do a different form of education, even though I probably could have. I just didn't like that. I wanted to go and use my hands. But why are you classified as having integrity over me? This is the fundamental problem. They say this is so funny. I laugh about this shit all the time, mate. So what we've done as a collective is we're driven on this hierarchical classification now. And it doesn't matter what content you got. It doesn't matter. As long as you got the classification, you can be an absolutely bumbling idiot like Elbow, right? And still have the job, right? And so that is one of the fundamental. That's just a technical aspect of what you're talking about.
I agree with you, my friend. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, as I said, and I go back to my coach, JT Fox, who said the same thing. I mean, especially in America, coming to Australia, he goes, you guys are so interested in degrees and all this, mate. And someone questioned him on it. It was really funny. Someone goes, I've got a doctorate. He goes, that's fantastic. I've got an MBA. He goes, oh, MBA. Yeah, massive bank account. Have a look at my credentials. Exactly what you're saying. It's funny. You go down, get a degree and whatever you want, then go back and do what you did and what JT does, and we're going to make yourself self-made millionaire or self-made person, however you want to put it. But this is what we're missing in this country, and this is exactly what you're talking about.
And I have never mentioned what I've done on social media, really. But I took $5,000 over a 10-year period and turned it into 130 million turnover in 10 years.